What's up, everybody? I am back from seeing The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan. I did get in to see it in IMAX this morning. I just wanted to give my formal review. I have some notes that I'm going to go over as far as my thoughts on the movie and what you all would think of it. We're going to get into that. I'm going to first go, as far as individual cast, strong characters that I felt were strong throughout the movie, followed by what I call my forgettable characters or performances. And then from there, I'll just get onto my final thoughts on the movie. So let's get into it here. Let's go ahead first. Let's put a nice picture of the cast up so that way you guys have that to look at. So first thing I want to talk about is, first and foremost, we're going to go right for the main character, okay? Odysseus, Matt Damon. Did he do a good job? Does he embody Odysseus? Well, I think I shared this in one of my earlier videos. He does not fit stereotypically what my mind or what my director's chair thoughts would be for Odysseus. However, it was a long movie, nearly 3 hours long, and I was being highly cognitive of what people would think of this performance and everyone's performance. So I was really trying to pay attention to, subtle things of actors' performances that I thought were strong, maybe not so strong, or how it could detract from the story. And I can tell you this, Matt Damon is a good actor. He's a good actor, and he held this movie for almost 3 hours long. There was nothing weak, really, that I felt about his performance, other than the fact that it seems like he was directed to keep his American accent. But beyond that, he was able to do the job and do it well. So there was nothing detracting me or my enjoyment of this movie by his performance alone. And I do think there was some heartfelt scenes that he had, some really good scenes that he was, he's a veteran actor at this point. I think he did the job. And I think Christopher Nolan did an adequate job of placing him in the role. So no problems there. Next, I'm going to bring up Tom Holland. I was pleasantly surprised by Tom Holland's performance in this movie. I honestly thought that Tom Holland was going to be a detraction from this movie, but he ended up being, I think, a very strong character. In the initial trailer, teaser trailer, and some of his dialogue, I thought he was going to be a whiny little character. I thought he was going to be a whiny little son. I didn't like that he had that he put on his American accent for it. But what I saw throughout this movie in his performance was that he did kind of start off as like that, kind of a weaker, I don't know what to do yet, I'm not a full man yet kind of character, with the higher pitched voice of what would be more of an innocent, immature son character. But throughout the movie, you could see that Tom Holland's performance actually matured with that character. And I thought that was really, really well done. So, is he going to win any Oscars? I doubt it, but I do think it shows that Tom Holland's growing as an actor, and I do think that he did more than adequate job in this role. I'm glad to say that his performance did not detract from the film whatsoever. I was pretty happy with it. One scene, towards the end was a little kind of unbelievable or annoying with his character that kind of pissed me off a little bit. But other than that, rest of the movie, solid performance from him. A lot of his performances, rested on the relationship between him and Anne Hathaway. I thought that they did a good job of bantering back and forth with each other. And his scenes with John Bernthal were also pretty good. So Tom Holland, great job. I think he did a good job, and he's growing as an actor. Next, I'll talk about Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway played the character of Penelope, Odysseus' wife. Um, I'm happy to say that the trailer made me think like it was not going to be that good of a performance and it was going to detract from the film. But she did an adequate job for this role. Was it who I would have picked? Probably not. Was it my favorite performance in the movie? Absolutely not. Did she do enough to make me feel invested in the story and her character? Yes, absolutely she did. Just a few cringy scenes that I didn't like so much, but that wasn't really the fault of her, the actress. I'd say it was more the fault of the director and the editors and how they were cutting the scenes and putting them together. But ultimately, she made me feel something as far as what a mother feels for her son. But really, her existence in this story is to kind of make you feel how torn a loyal wife can feel when her husband's gone for so long. She made me feel that, and I do think she did a adequate job. So she did a pretty good job. Next, I'll talk about Robert Pattinson of Twilight fame. This guy, I will say, he's just starting to impress me so much. I think that he travels from role to role. He doesn't pin himself to any one type of role. He's done everything from the teen heartthrob in Twilight to Batman to really kilter characters that are just so awkward and weird. He's able to switch accents like nothing, and his job in this role, he played the role of Antinous. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but either way, he plays this character who really is a villain in the movie, probably the main villain, one of the main villains, back at home, who's trying to coerce Penelope to forget about her husband who has disappeared and marry him. But he plays such a good sniveling weasel of a guy that you can't help but hate his character, and that is what an actor's job is to do, make you hate him. I don't like that Christopher Nolan, again, made most everybody put on an American accent in this movie. But again, what you do is you try to let go of these little things that can subliminally bother you. But if you're invested in the movie and the story and the actors' performances are strong, you kind of forget about, okay, so whatever. They have English accents, amongst other complaints that I've heard about on the internet. Next, we're going to talk about John Leguizamo. John Leguizamo, this guy has been a solid actor for decades. He surprises me constantly. He networks well within Hollywood. Whatever the case that whatever he's doing the right thing. This guy gets into really good roles. He gets into high-profile roles, and then sometimes he does smaller roles. But whenever he gets into like surprising roles, like say Romeo and Juliet from a couple decades ago, he does really well with them. And I think he did the same thing here. His character's name was Eumaeus, who was a confidant to the family, and he was the head of Odysseus's troops. He had command of them in Odysseus's stead, and he grows into this old man, and he plays the role really, really well. His character is blind, so a lot of his emotions have to come from, the fact that his character would not have sight, which I think is a great test as an actor, and I think he pulled it off really well. The overall theme of the movie to me is loyalty, and John Leguizamo plays that off, like that undying loyalty to his master throughout the film. Masterful job. Another nice surprise, kind of like Tom Holland. I think John Leguizamo did a great job, and any of the people that are out there saying, whatever, claiming that DEI had, a negative effect on the movie. This certainly was not the case with John Leguizamo. The guy is an amazing actor, and I think he did a great job with that character. And then finally on my strong list of performances and actors in this movie is John Bernthal. As many of you know, this guy has played, you might know him from Walking Dead series, you might know him from Daredevil series on Netflix, and now Disney Plus, as well as The Punisher from Netflix and now Disney Plus. He's been in so many other roles, but the one thing about this guy is that he commands a presence whenever he is on the screen. There's something about his bravado when he walks into the frame. He conveys strength, he conveys anger, he conveys passion, he conveys power, all just with this. All just with his emotions, his facial expressions, his body language. And I can see why Christopher Nolan picked him for the role of Menelaus. So really great casting there for John Bernthal. And I think that together, those actors were the core strength of this movie, and really the heart of what will make this movie successful if it continues to go on after being released here and be profitable for the studios and make money and connect with audiences. Now let's talk about my forgettables list when it comes to actors and performances. This in no way means that these actors suck. It in no way means that these actors are terrible. It's just sometimes I think you get into a situation where a director becomes so big and so well known and has so much clout in Hollywood that he can pretty much call the shots however he wants. And he's got so many friends, and he's made so many friends with the actors. So in some cases he thinks, this person would be a good part for the role. And in some cases, I think it's good for him to be able to do that and get such big names to come in and do small parts. But I think for the actors, maybe not the best choice for them to grow as actors and grow their careers. That kind of happened in some of these roles. I will talk about it, and we'll get into each one. But I did feel at times like, this is just miscasting or misused talent. So the first I'm going to talk about is Lupita Nyong'o. She was notoriously cast, as Helen of Troy. The internet was not happy about that. So here's what I can say about Lupita's performance. She doesn't have a whole lot of scenes in the film. With the scenes that she was in, they didn't feel impactful. They felt more programmed. They felt more cookie cutter. They felt basic for the talent that she has. I had mentioned in a previous video, she was in 12 Years a Slave. Excellent performance in an excellent movie. She was in another horror film. I can't remember the name at the moment. She's been in some other movies where she gives very strong performances. She has a lot of emotion that she can display in her face like an actor should. She is a gifted actress. I think she was miscast in this role. I personally don't understand why Christopher Nolan made the choice. I'm sure there's answers out there on the internet. He may have already given some answers. But I just think that, if he was going to make Helen of Troy such a small part of this movie, might have wanted to pick a smaller named actor and then further maybe make it historically accurate as far as like the look. So that way it would have helped out the audience and not have them thinking about what bothers them or if it bothers them during scenes with her in it. So that being said, I will say not a major distraction from the movie. But definitely moments that make you go into your mind and think, why? I was watching the movie today thinking, not sure why this choice in casting was made, but it was brief, it was fluttering, it went away, and the movie continued and went on. It was a good movie. So other than that, that's all I'll say about Lupita Nyong'o's performance. Gifted actress. I feel she was miscast in this movie. Next, we're going to talk about Elliot Page. Elliot Page. This is probably one sure instance in this movie where I will say I do feel there was something going on with casting that was not aligned to the ultimate goal of making this the most believable and the most entertaining and the most enjoyable movie. Elliot Page is a gifted actor. I want to get that straight. Those of you that know who Elliot Page is know that Elliot Page was actually nominated for an Oscar back before he transitioned. He was nominated for a movie, Juno. So we know the acting chops are there. But in this role, and I will say this, I was very happy to find out, at least Elliot Page's character by the name of Sinan is not Achilles. So originally the internet was all up in arms about the fact that, oh, Elliot Page is going to play Achilles, the greatest warrior of all time. I was a little disappointed by that thought too. Turns out that, nope, that's not the case. Sinan is not Achilles. I'll let you watch the movie to find out exactly what the character is all about. But ultimately, still, I will say that the character Sinan it should have been somebody who is taller than 5 foot, way more bulky, way more athletic, and honestly, much more fitting of the role. That's all I can say. It felt awkward. The scenes felt awkward. Luckily, there were not too many scenes really with Elliot Page in them portraying the character. There was one meaty scene that was there for Elliot Page, but I feel, and this is why I feel it took me out of the fantasy of, the movie just playing in my mind, but there was a scene in which it just felt like Christopher Nolan was doing a favor for an old friend. And as you know, Elliot Page did work previously with Christopher Nolan in Inception. And he was great in that as Ellen Page. In this case, though, I'm sorry. It took me out of it for a moment. And I think, if your goal is to have the audience invested and not even really think about reality and be just in that world, this was a miscast for sure. And I think it could have been somebody else. Next, we're going to talk about Zendaya. Zendaya is a great actress. She is proving she has acting chops. She started in kids' TV shows, and she's worked her way up into more serious, mature content. And she's kind of progressed really quickly into a really good actress. She is able to portray emotions in her eyes, in her face, in her body language extremely well. But I felt, in this case, there wasn't a whole lot for her to work with. She plays Athena. And when you're going to have a name character like Athena, the goddess, you should have more of that character integrated into the story. I don't feel like that was the case with this telling of the Odyssey. The scenes that she had were few and far between. Some of them were really good. Like you could tell, like Zendaya hit the mark on her acting for those scenes, but they weren't impactful as far as the character to me. So therefore, I label them as like forgettable. And I think that as Zendaya grows her career even more, she's already blowing up. She's going to be in like 3 major movies this year. she will go on to probably one day win an Oscar. And I think that this little part in this movie that, I know she wanted to work very much so with Christopher Nolan because he's just the it director right now in Hollywood. I'm sure she gets to check that box off and be happy about it. That's cool. But there'll be I think she will probably think that there's other projects that she's more close to, that are more close to her heart as she matures and time goes on and she gets more movies under her belt. But she didn't do anything wrong. It's just the performances, or I guess the scenes, are forgettable because they're not that impactful. So not a whole lot to work with there with Zendaya, and I do think that could have been another actor, honestly. Okay, this is a big one here for me. I was just like, this was I don't. This to me is a cash in. This is Christopher Nolan saying, let's get some new audience in here, or let's shoot big for the new younger audience with Travis Scott. He's got I don't even know the name of his character in the movie, but he's not featured heavily at all. But the short bits that he is in there, he's like some sort of storyteller or orator of some kind, who kind of tells, the citizens of Ithaca about Odysseus's story in Troy. So I just felt like there was nothing that this guy did that brought me into the character. He certainly didn't change his accent. I don't know if he took acting classes to deliver the little bit that he did on screen, but again, I just felt like it was out of place. And it did not seem to me like this could have been any other actor. Honestly, it could have been any other actor to play in this part. But I do think because of his notoriety as a musician, they decided to bring him in. They thought, okay, he's got however many millions of followers. We can get those butts in seats and charge money for the tickets. Yeah. So that does feel like a cash grab, honestly. Maybe Travis Scott goes on to do more acting roles and he becomes a better actor. I don't know. I just feel like it was kind of unnecessary in this movie. Next, I'm going to talk about Charlize Theron. No stranger to the acting game. This woman is a great actress. She's won an Oscar. She's just good. She's really good. Whenever we have a big movie like this where we have a director who has so much power, so much clout, to basically pick and choose who he wants to be in his movies, you have an instance where it could be too much. Like there's too many good actors and actresses in one movie to where, whoever stands out, whoever shines, it's because they're truly just masters at their craft. Not to say that Charlize Theron is not a master of her craft. It's just that I'm sure the few pages they gave her for her character, Calliope, it was just too few pages and not enough to work with. The scenes she had with Odysseus were pretty good. I think that Matt Damon carried those scenes, honestly. But it just felt to me like there was not enough content for her to build the character more than what she did. And I feel like, honestly, it could have been almost any other actress out there in Hollywood who could have played her character. So no offense to Charlize Theron. She's a great actress. I just feel like that was miscasting. Here's another odd one that I had to list because it kind of struck me as odd. But when the original trailer struck for the Odyssey, one of the more memorable parts of it is the moment where the camera pans back a bit and it's at a low set angle behind the left shoulder of Odysseus. And it's Agamemnon in his gear, his war gear. And it looks so menacing and it makes you feel like, oh, I can't wait for this movie. The actor who plays Agamemnon is Benny Safdie. Also worked with Christopher Nolan in Oppenheimer. Now, what I saw in that trailer of Agamemnon made me think there's going to be a bigger part to this. It's going to be cool to see the interactions between him and Odysseus. Well, in reality, I have to tell you, I was let down. because there wasn't a whole lot of scenes with Agamemnon. And the presence in which Benny Safdie brought to that role was only visual. I just, when he finally does open his mouth in the few short scenes he has, I was disappointed, honestly, by the voice. The voice in which he carried Agamemnon with, it felt much higher than the voice he had in the character he played in Oppenheimer. So here I am. I'm expecting this big, booming. He's like this huge king, Agamemnon. He rules all these other kings, right? And you're expecting him to be this big, tall guy, which Benny Safdie is a big guy. He's like 6'4" or something, 6'5" maybe. He's a big guy. But when he spoke in the movie and with his dialogue, the voice didn't fit that embodiment of Agamemnon. So I was like, okay, that's a little disappointing. So I think that was either a miscast or just, again, too much hype. You hired too big of a name to fit this small role, since you were going to make Agamemnon a smaller role. So just a little off key on that. Another one I'm going to mention is Mia Goth. Mia Goth, that's right here next to Benny Safdie. Her character's name was Melantho, and she kind of plays like a maiden assistant to Anne Hathaway's character, Penelope. Again, you know, these actors, they're so eager to work with Christopher Nolan. They say yes no matter what. I feel like her skill set as an actress was underused on this very bit part, but she was probably happy to do it. I just feel like her character was kind of insignificant to the overall story. She had a few key scenes, maybe, key pieces of dialogue, particularly with Robert Pattinson's character, but ultimately, again, it could have been any actress, and it wouldn't have made a difference to me. So forgettable performance again. And then finally, I just mentioned this one because there's a little bit of news there with Ryan Hurst. Ryan Hurst is this gentleman here with the super large beard. The reason why I bring him up is because I'm a huge fan of the God of War video games and the upcoming Amazon series. And just heard yesterday, they announced that apparently he's injured. He might have torn a bicep, and that has halted production of the God of War series coming out, which I also have such high hopes for and was hoping was coming out soon. So now that's delayed. But I knew he was going to be in this. I knew it was going to be a minor character. And I will say that, you know, his character's name, I think, was Mentor in the movie. And he kind of plays like this, he's a trainer / bodyguard / protector to Tom Holland's character, Telemachus. And, you know, for somebody who's about to go off and he's going to be the main character, Kratos, in God of War, they gave him, I mean, he's got such a minor part in this that there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue. His character felt a bit insignificant, and again, a bit of a forgettable performance there. So again, I've got my strong cast that made up the movie, and I've got my forgettables, and that does it. There's other minor characters that show up too, but I'm not going to go over all of them. Those were the main characters of note that I will talk about. Next, I'm going to go over my notes of the actual film and what I thought. First thing right off the bat that I should say is that the first third of the movie, it feels to me like it drags. Slow start, for sure. First third drags. Okay. Second third of the movie picks up slightly. You start to see a little more interaction, a little more action, dialogue's getting better, you know, scenes with actors, going back and forth in their dialogue is you know, definitely getting better. Tempo's getting faster. So that's good. If you stick through the first third, you get to the second, you're like, okay, it's starting to get going. And then the last third is kind of peak Chris Nolan. He kind of starts to show in that last third why he is the director that he is. He starts showing beautifully cut flashbacks of Odysseus telling some of the story going in the past of what had some of it had already happened and some of the things that are happening, all while being played to the beautiful soundtrack during that time. That, to me, that is like classic Christopher Nolan directing. I wish the whole movie had felt like that, but I remember when I was in the theater earlier today, just thinking like, okay, now this feels like a Christopher Nolan film. It was only in the last third of the film, but it started to feel like, yes, now I feel like this movie was worth going to the theater to see. So yeah, the movie could definitely be divided up, I feel, into like 3 parts: first third, second third, last third, 3-act story. Next, I'm going to talk about the IMAX filming. Okay. Right off the bat, I'll tell you, I feel like the IMAX filming was overhyped. It's being way overhyped as a marketing tool. That being said, I did go see it in IMAX. I saw it in IMAX, not one of the special, only 10 IMAX theaters in the world IMAX theaters, but I did see it at my local theater that has an IMAX theater, a couple IMAX theaters in it. And it was great to see it that way. I like seeing the bigger screen. I like seeing the movie the way it was intended. It's beautiful. Cinematography is great. Do I feel like seeing it in IMAX or seeing it in regular movie theaters would detract from the story? Not at all. I don't think it would. What you'd see is you get that little bit of cutoff, maybe a little bit of loss of detail. I'm not sure, but I don't feel like the story was strong enough to hold its own. You don't have to go spend a ton of money. I'm talking directly to those that are trying to save money, are having a hard time financially in this world right now, and need to scrimp and save, but you still want to go maybe be inspired by storytelling and go see a movie in the theater. You can still go do that. You don't have to pay for an IMAX ticket. Don't believe in the IMAX hype. I love IMAX. I think it's great. But if you can afford it, go see it in IMAX for sure. Go do it. It's great. But I don't think everyone who, isn't making a ton of money, who has a family of 4 or 5 and doesn't want to spend $20 to $25 to $30 a ticket, I get it. So I just wanted to make that clear. One theme that I will say about this movie that I feel is the overall theme of the movie is loyalty. And I think that word, that feeling, that quality in a person, in a human being, resonates so much with men. And I think that, if you're a man who can get past some of the creative choices that may have disappointed you, like I did, I think you will find a very good story behind it, and it's based on the theme of loyalty. It's throughout the whole movie. Obviously, Odysseus is trying to get back to his wife, and throughout the movie, you see his loyalty to try to return to her, and then his loyalty to his men, staying true to his men and keeping them alive. So that's one good thing that really resonated with me. And then also Telemachus, his loyalty to his father, who had left when he was just a boy. So here he is now, a young man, and he still has this embedded sense of loyalty to his father in his mind and his heart. And that's just such a great thing to see, and it resonates with me as a man and as a father. The loyalty that this son has to his father, even while his father's been gone and no word's been had from Odysseus. All they know is that he may or may not still be alive and whatnot. And he's living on hope. Him and his mom are sitting there praying, hoping every day that their Odysseus is going to return. So there's loyalty in that. And then also Eumaeus, to the loyalty he has to his master, Odysseus. I think it was, again, very well played by John Leguizamo. He did a great job. And those were the main points of loyalty throughout a movie that was action packed, beautiful to look at. Um, it it really, I think, if you can get through the first third, second third of the movie, really starts to pick up, and then by the last third of the movie, you're like, okay, all right, thank God, I didn't waste money on this ticket. So that's kind of what I looked at as far as like what I feel the movie is about. Lastly, actually not lastly, because I got a little bit more to talk about. Overall, I'm going to say, the movie's good. It's a good movie, but it's not outstanding, and it's not Christopher Nolan's best, okay? Those of you that were hoping that this was going to be his magnum opus, his most amazing film ever, I think you'll be let down. I think for right now, that's still going to be, well, if you're a critic, if you're somebody who appreciates movies for very specific art forms, then, Oppenheimer is his magnum opus. If you're a fanboy and you like just, popcorn movies, then The Dark Knight is going to be, Christopher Nolan's magnum opus for you. I do think that this is a good movie that just beefens up his resume, and I don't think it's going to detract from him or cause him any problems going forward in Hollywood with any of the talk about, it being woke and bad decisions and whatnot. I think this movie's worth going to see in theaters. I was going to flat out, if I went to see this movie and felt like it was whatever, too messed up, too woke, too this, too that, I was going to tell people flat out, like, don't go see this movie. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. But I will say, if you have the money to do it, this movie is worth going to see in theaters, but don't expect it to be a GOAT type film. Okay. I have my GOATs. Okay. I've got my Bravehearts. I've got my Gladiators. But this will not fall in my top 5 list. It just won't. It's a great movie. It's a good movie. I have some complaints about it. I've already mentioned some of those to you, but don't go into it expecting a GOAT movie. For those of you that don't know what GOAT means, it's greatest of all time. But yeah, don't expect that, and you may come out pleasantly surprised. There was some thoughts here I want to talk about. Like, there was times throughout the movie I couldn't help but feel at certain times during the movie that actors that appeared that had already, and I had known were already in other movies with the same actors paired up, like that triggered my memory of those actors in those other movies. And it made me kind of get out of the fantasy of thinking this is a story. Everything else is, out of my mind right now, just concentrating on the story. And it made me think about these actors and their relationships outside of the story. And it took me out of the fantasy for a bit, Namely, you've got Zendaya. She's been in multiple movies with Robert Pattinson now. Zendaya's been in multiple movies with Tom Holland, and Tom Holland's been now in multiple movies with Jon Bernthal. And there may be some other combinations I didn't get right here off the bat, but I think it'd be a good thing for Hollywood to start letting in some more new blood, some new actors, new actresses, because that is, if any directors or producers are out there, casting directors and whatnot, if you're listening to your audience, I'm part of that. Please, please, please start looking for the gems that are out there, the gem actors and actresses that are out there just waiting to be found, okay? Because the easy route of just pick and choose, I know a lot of this was Christopher Nolan saying, this is my passion project. I want this, and I'm just going to go ask him. So be it. That's kind of how this movie came together. But it did feel kind of like a cliquey Hollywood gang got together and kind of made this movie, which was a passion project. So I just thought I would mention that. I'll say that while the biggest concerns about the movie being woke are subtly distracting at moments, it doesn't last long because the actors that create these controversies, they don't really have much screen time at all. I did feel that while watching it. I just remember, yes, there was this brief moments. Maybe Elliot Page came on screen, and it took me out of it for a second. Or Lupita Nyong'o came on screen. It took me out of it for a moment, and I thought, oh shoot, everyone's gonna think this is a dumb scene or whatever. So be it. It passed. The movie was strong enough. Matt Damon's performance in holding the whole movie was strong enough, and Christopher Nolan's awesome directing was strong enough to keep me invested in the story regardless. And then finally, I mean, can this be compared to Troy in any way? Not really. I don't think so. There are parts of this that were better than Troy for sure. And then I guess in some ways, some minor ways, Troy might have been slightly better than this movie. But I mean, you can tell, like, Christopher Nolan is just a different kind of director. He is masterful at telling stories in a beautiful way. The combination of the visuals and the music together, superb. I just, I wish if I had been, giving advice, I would have offered, a couple of other suggestions. But the final product is what he made it. It's now out there in the ether for all to accept, view, critique, love, hate, you name it. It's just out there. And that's, I think, what, he expected. And that is what I think that everyone is going to have to decide for themselves. Right now, I'm just here to kind of give my thoughts on it, help you decide whether or not you should spend your hard-earned cash on that ticket. Another thing I think I'll always be doing on my movie reviews is, will I buy this on physical media? I have a lot of other movies that I want to buy on physical media before I buy this one. Let's just put it that way. This won't come out on 4K Blu-ray probably for at least 3 to 4 months. So yeah, there's no rush. Let's put it that way. There's no rush for me to buy this on physical media. So that being said, again, good movie, but not a GOAT movie. I hope everybody enjoys the Odyssey who goes out to see it. Stay Poncetive, everybody. Talk to you later.